Botswana, but I am completing a PhD in digital transformation with Cork University Business School in Ireland. So my work, which has been, ongoing for quite some time, it's basically in the area of digital transformation. Maybe just a quick overview of the presentation. Sort of a background of where it all started and where we are at the moment. I'll give an overview of what digital transformation is. Then there's the argument that there's poor rate of digital transformation success. So I'll look briefly at why there's that. Then I take the study from a point where I'm hoping to build a successful digital transformation framework. And I've been doing this through different iterations, sort of adopting a more, if you like, a design science approach, where I'm going through different iterations of, satisfying the rigor of developing this digital transformation framework. And those are the different iterations. I'll speak to each of them, then just give a small discussion and conclusions. This was basically supposed to be a PhD, a doctoral consortium paper where I'm sort of, this is my work. I would like to solicit some feedback. How can I improve on what I'm working on? It's more like work in progress. So to say. So but basically, to get started, digital transformation, we all know it's a very topical issue, both in academia and in practice. The literature tells us that business organizations embark on digital transformation to explore new opportunities, to create value, to enhance customer experiences, to build new business models, all that. And in academia, we are striving to better understand this phenomenon, to theorize it and develop, theories and models of how best organizations can achieve successful digital transformation. And as this phenomenon is growing, we learned that actually in 2015, a study revealed that 90% of organizations that were interviewed claimed that they were working on digital transformation, and 50 of them were talking about it, and 50% were saying they're actually in it. Rogers, who's perhaps, if you follow digital transformation, a professor in Columbia Business School, says it's no secret that every company is talking about digital transformation today. Also, the conversation, around digital transformation has sort of evolved over the years. Previously, we were talking about, understanding, maybe persuading, creating awareness that companies need to digitally transform. But in present moments, the conversation has sort of evolved towards how best can organizations achieve digital transformation, looking at developing models, and all that. So my study basically looked at, developing digital transformation models. And where that came from was the fact that literature also says only a few of those who embark on digital transformations are succeeding. 1 in 5 digital transformation projects fail. 84% of companies fail at digital transformation. There's so much work, so much literature that, sort of shows that there is low success rates in digital transformation. And there's many reasons, attributed to that, from maybe just simple understanding of, what a digital transformation is, how to go about it. Disconnection between your digital strategy or business strategy or strategy implementation, the holistic understanding of what exactly managers need to do when they embark on such journeys, and also where I'm coming from, the lack of tools that can guide these managers as they embark on such journeys. And there's a very clear call for research, calling for theorizing and understanding of the phenomenon towards improving success of digital transformation undertakings. And like I say, so through my PhD journey, I started off to, from a design science sort of perspective, I embarked on this journey of, if only 1 in 5 are succeeding, there's something that we can learn from those who are succeeding. So that's where my journey started. Maybe just to give a bit of background on design science, much work done by Hafner and Huffers et al. Those are some of the literature that I sort of, used to sort of help me solidify my methodology. But basically it's about developing and validation of designed artifacts, your algorithms, interfaces, process models, and the intent is to improve the functional performance of these artifacts. And it emphasizes on the rigor of this design process. Hence the iterations, the 4 iterations that I embark on in my studies. So basically, those are the 4 different iterations. The first one was conceptualization of digital transformation, then determining digital transformation success factors, then they unfold in that manner. So I'll quickly go through each one of them. So the first iteration was, I wanted to sort of, conceptualize digital transformation in business organizations, understanding digital transformation, and I looked at 4 constructs, what it is, the drivers, the areas to transform, the impacts it creates, and in that process I embarked on a very rigorous systematic literature review, concept-centric matrix. About 89 papers were looked at, and some of the findings were, obviously it's a growing phenomenon. At that stage it was still very nascent, not much researched, but it was very complex and difficult with multiple dimensions. But then there was also the story that many companies are embracing, but however only a few are succeeding. And the output from that phase of the iteration was a paper that was published in 2017 in a conference in Bled. And I sort of, obviously the reference paper that I was using was the Webster and Watson analyzing the past to prepare for the future, which was sort of guiding me through the literature review process. And from there, my departing point, my point of departure was that only 1 in 5 are succeeding in digital transformation. So this is sort of the concept-centric matrix that I looked at, like I said, I was looking at digital transformation, definition, the characteristics, the drivers, all that. And those are some of the attributes that were emerging from, these were some of the attributes that were emerging, from the literature that was being analyzed. And also, I managed to come up with a working definition where I was saying it's an evolutionary process that leverages digital technologies and capabilities to enable business models, operational processes, customer experiences to create value. This, obviously, there was a comparison with other definitions to sort of come up with my own context of digital transformation. So from there, I moved into, departing with 1 in 5 are succeeding. I went into say, but therefore it means we can learn from those who are getting it right. And the objective of that iteration was what do digital exemplars do that enables them to succeed in their digital transformation journeys and how they do it. There was a very methodical process as well. Some, two of the main papers that I was using was Femis and Corbett, where I looked at, analyzing, looking at analyzing case studies, documented case studies to come up with my own, themes and, coding the different attributes as they were emerging from the literature that was, from the case studies that were documented. So what I did is, I first of all identified, 10 success stories of digital transformation. These were well-documented companies, then decided on the level of analysis, how many concepts to code for, decide whether to code for existence or frequency of concepts. It's a very methodical process, but basically I went through that same process for all the 10 case studies. And out of that, the analysis process included within case and cross-case analysis. And out of that, I discovered 7 factors and 23 sub-factors towards a successful digital transformation. And these were also published in another conference in 2020, Higgs. And basically these are the companies that I analyzed, Burberry, Hummel, Starbucks, Retail Co. was anonymized, L'Oreal, DBS Bank, Lloyds Bank, Audi, Lego, HAAB. So this is where they were published, and like I was saying, was very comprehensive stories on how they went about that digital transformation journey. So I did an analysis of each of those case studies to learn from them how they went about their journey. And these are the sub-factors, success factors, and the sub-factors that emerged from that. From determining digital triggers, how to cultivate a digital culture, developing a vision, determining the drivers, establishing digital, the digital organization, determining the areas to transform, as well as determining the impacts. So these were, like I'm saying, they came from, those success stories of those companies. And so I would have called that a conceptual framework, so to say, of successful digital transformation. But then, these were obviously obtained from secondary data. So I had to validate them through empirical data. This is where now I identified 2 case studies. I went into these 2 organizations, met with professionals, experts working every day on an everyday basis on digital transformation in these 2 organizations to hear from their own experiences, how they go about it as the organizations themselves. But getting into these organizations with those 7, I call them preconceived, attributes into, I was bringing them into the new data, so I was sort of validating them again, maybe to just improve the rigor and maybe reiterate them as necessary. And the objective there was, what are the factors that enable successful digital transformation, and how do organizations achieve successful digital transformation? And for this iteration, I used Easton Hunt building theories from case study research, and Yin, the case study research methodology, the publication itself. So it was those 2 organizations, which is the HSE in Ireland and AIB, which is a bank. I conducted semi-structured interviews with the members of the teams in those two organizations. And the findings basically, it was a revised list of those 7 factors. And besides just the revised list, also a process model sort of emerged. I could actually now come to a point where I see this is how you get started, and this is how sort of your series of events or activities should take place for you to embark on a successful digital transformation journey. Typically maybe as part of the data that was being obtained from the interviews, for instance, your HSE. Okay, so these are the sub-factors revised. So things like determining your digital triggers. They mentioned that you need to identify firstly the events and incidents that that sort of pushes you to embark on a digital transformation journey. Don't be fashionable about it. A lot of there's a very thin line between digital transformation becoming a buzzword and a fashionable thing versus there's actually something that's happening in the organization which is sort of triggering us to begin or to embark on this journey. You need to understand those stimulating conditions. You need to establish a digital organization. So the minute there is that decision to embark, you set a vision and you appoint a digital head who will be the head of the digital organization. So this is someone who will drive the digital transformation mandate in the organization. This person will be responsible for establishing a digital implementation structures, building digital implementation teams, making sure it's across the whole organization. So it's not a secluded department that's being financed and resourced, being separated from the rest of the organization. They actually in HSE they actually were saying that when they started their own journey, firstly they took digital transformation as the special baby in the organization, well fed with all resources and all of that, but only to realize that the well-favored baby is moving out of step with the rest of the organization. Therefore, the actual value that they were trying to achieve through digital transformation, they were not actually achieving that. But up until they went on to maybe appoint a digital head and form a more coordinated digital organization, that's when they started realizing better benefits of that. Okay. Then there is the issue of the digital vision, developing a very clear digital vision, digital present, what is it that you need to do, then determining the areas that you need to transform. The drivers, you need to also be very clear which technologies, without being fashionable about it, then you need to determine the actual value that you derive from your digital transformation endeavor. So basically this is the model that I was saying. It sort of emerges as a very, I could say, a process model from the findings. So it just unpacking these attributes here, these success factors, they come up with this model here, and this is where you start at the initiation phase, design phase, implementation phase, and evaluation phase. And across, at any given point, you need to have transformational leadership styles and supporting conducive culture. You also need to determine if you need, you need to know your digital maturity index, such that if you are able, you should be able to bring in, you should collaborate with external partners. So this is sort of the process that's emerging out of that. And obviously, these three iterations were my personal work, but perhaps to satisfy the design science methodology, I need to maybe bring in the fourth iteration, where now I will be evaluating this framework with maybe experts, independent experts who are somewhat experienced in their own right in the area of digital transformation. So we unpack the model and reiterate it again to, just to improve the rigor of it. So basically, that's the study that or the presentation that I have for you. So such that a successful digital transformation has been built within 3 iterations so far. I need to do the fourth part, which is the evaluation, yes, and maybe to remove the research bias as well. So, and like I was saying, the purpose of this presentation was just to share, this and maybe get some feedback on how I can, reshape the study even better. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions from the floor?